Hello and welcome to a special episode of the Counter Sports podcast as myself and Liam talk to Racecourse Ramble host Matthew Jones about all things Wrexham since they've been promoted to the Championship and whether the club are aiming for Premier League football next year. So, Matt, thank you for joining us today. How are you doing?
I am very good. Thank you for having me, I guess is the polite way to say it.
Yeah, we've wanted to do one of these since obviously Wrexham got promoted a couple of weeks ago now. Grice, I don't know, are you still celebrating? Both of you, actually?
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, I think it hasn't sunk in for me yet. I think it'll sink in for me when the fixture list comes out, if I'm on it. I think at that point we'll probably go, oh, crumbs, this could be, this, or maybe when a signing or two comes in and then we start to see, bigger names than we've ever been linked to. There's one already coming out today, isn't there, which is, a Premier League player, which is potentially quite exciting.
Yeah, we'll get onto that later on. But firstly, I just want to ask for people who haven't, I think, quite realised or don't really want to appreciate it. How huge is it making it to the Championship from where Wrexham were maybe, only 5 years ago?
Shall I go with that one, Liam?
Go for
me
it.
to take it, or what do you want me to do? Well, I think if you listen to what the owners have said since they took over, there's a lot of times this has come up. They've said that when COVID hit, that they didn't think the club was sustainable and would have made it through the COVID period. So you don't normally say things of that magnitude unless you kind of mean it, do you? So we could have been in real trouble, and yet where are we? 4 years later, is it? Whatever it is, technically, and we're now bonkersly entering the Championship. So in terms of a journey, it's unbelievable, isn't it, for somebody to rise so quickly? It's difficult. Not many people do it, if ever at all. So that tells you something, doesn't it? The fact that Wrexham are the first team to do it in a league anyway, I think that tells you the magnitude of what the achievement is. And I think that I always go back to those words. They said they didn't think Wrexham could have made it through COVID when they looked at the accounts, etc., being obviously a fan-owned club and the challenges that was going to bring. So for me, I don't know whether Liam agrees or disagrees or has a different view on it. I think that probably tells us all we need to know.
Yeah, just the despair and the dread that was surrounding the club in that COVID period, because obviously we really only survived in the National League on the points per game system. We could have got relegated if the season hadn't been curtailed. We got very lucky with that, and then to add more onto that, we got lucky again with the takeover. They came in, like Matt said, and said, this isn't looking too good. We need to sort something out here, and luckily they did, and now we're one league away from the Premier League. So time flies when you're having fun, I guess.
Do you look at a club like Bury, who are, I think, 7 steps below now, and think that probably could have been you?
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not an extreme. That's not a wild accusation. That could have very much been. That Liam's talked about that potential relegation, and we got away from it because the teams had all played different amount of games because of the COVID rules. So different team. If you remember, games were cancelled if you had certain amounts of players that had COVID. So some teams had played more games than others. So they decided that points per game thing. We were in a bit of a mess there, weren't we? That could have been. And they don't always do that. Sometimes they just end the league, don't they?
It's just there and then.
And whoever is in the bottom goes down. So that would have been a massive risk. So to say Bury is quite a good example of where Wrexham could have been. The flip side to where they could have been.
Can you, Matt, I'll ask you this one as well. Can you explain how Wrexham have managed the 3 promotions in a row? Obviously, everyone's aware of the Hollywood story, the Hollywood owners, but maybe more speaking from a squad and manager point of view, which I don't think a lot of people focus on.
Yeah. Oh, Phil Parkinson. The much maligned, to be fair, Phil Parkinson, I guess, because it's not all sort of roses and sunshine amongst the fan base, and you're not going to have that, are you? To be fair, people always divide opinion, but I think Rob and Ryan would tell you this: one of the smartest decisions they made was to appoint Phil Parkinson. The results have proved that they were right to do that, irrespective of whether you enjoy the football or not, or the players he signs, or whatever issues you want to pick out about Phil Parkinson or Steve Parkin. But the experience, there's two things that stand out for me. The experience that he's got has obviously always will play a part. But I think you've got two owners that are coming from obviously North America as they do, and their famous sports teams are built on culture. Yep. And Phil Parkinson resonated with them on that point of view, and the fact that he supposedly, I mean, we're not in and around the dressing room, are we, Liam? But everything that we hear is all about the dressing room being outstanding and the culture being good. And famously, Phil Parkinson kind of takes a North American approach in how he looks at people's backgrounds and really digs deep into the character before he'll recruit them, and has famously turned down some bigger name players because of it. He was worried that character and culture would not be good in and around the dressing room. And I think the best example of a season where that's probably been embodied is last season, because at the start of the season, I certainly didn't think we'd be anywhere near promotion. Personally, I know other people did, but I didn't. I've got a lot of respect for League One, and there's some big clubs in that league. And I think to automatically go, oh, we're going to get promoted when you've got, this is going to sound silly now, but when you've got Bolton, Huddersfield, Rotherham, and probably Peterborough, I thought would all be finishing above Wrexham. And the fact that he's, there's not been one outstanding sort of player. There's been two or three that you could pick. Nobody's got over 10 goals, have they? And we're better. We're better as the sum of our parts rather than a team of stars and individuals. And I just think that probably comes from his days in lower league managing teams with smaller budgets, and that's what you have to do, don't you? You have to make better teams. So I think on the pitch, I think the Robin Ryan would absolutely throw praise at Phil Parkinson for the fact that he's got that culture right. He's done enough on the pitch, but I don't. Liam might disagree. You might say, oh, it was down to Mullin or it was down to somebody else, but I don't think that.
Fully spot on. I can't say anything different there. I think, the culture aspect of it is massive, and he's got these big characters in. James McLean is one that immediately springs to mind. You either love him or you hate him, but he works so well for this Wrexham side. Even when he's not playing, he's there. He's a presence. His experience, international experience, is massive for us, and we've seen with Parky's recruitment, he tends to sort of aim for those players that he knows can be leaders in the dressing room. There's not just one captain in that dressing room. There's 5 or 6 that each player can lean on and ask for advice and ask for, support on the pitch. And like Matt said, that's the massive part of what Phil Parkinson and Robin Ryan have built at Wrexham, is sort of the unity in the squad. It gets you over the line. It gets you those extra 2 or 3 points a season, which has been massive for us.
Yeah, just to follow that up before you go on, I think they made some good decisions with some key personnel as well around him. So obviously another character that perhaps people had question mark in Sean Harvey. He's helped get deals done, and he's helped with negotiations with like the Football League over certain things and aspects, challenges that we had. So there's probably more that we don't know about, but from Robin Ryan's point of view, they've put some good people in place. Still plenty to do. They'll put their hands up and go, well, listen, we're nowhere near where we want to be. But I think that's been the key thing, is getting a couple of those clever key pieces in place. Sorry to interrupt there.
No, you're all good. Looking at maybe more quality-wise, how big do you think the gap was from maybe National League to League One? And then how big do you think the gap is now from League One to the Championship, and how do you think the squad can really adapt to that?
I think to be honest, the evidence would say, I mean, we did change a few players, haven't we? We've had to change players. It was probably the jump that we had. There's always a level. There is always a jump. There's definitely always a difference. Yeah. But we bought a year ahead, didn't we? That's what they were telling us early on. They said that we were potentially buying sort of League One level players to get us out of the National League. And so that good bit of planning obviously helped make the difference not look so good. The National League has challenges, i.e. the amount of promotion spots. And also we had a freak year, obviously, where Notts County, if you look at where they are now, even now, they've not been able to maintain that, have they? So that was a freak year for Notts County. So those challenges obviously came. I don't think the jump from League Two to League One was as big as we thought.
No.
I mean, I asked the players that, they might give you a different answer, but otherwise I don't see how you could suddenly go and get promoted again automatically. So as I said, listen, I'm not saying that Wrexham haven't done some good things, but I compared this season when I was talking about it to somebody to the year that Leicester won the league, and the fact that there was just 3 or 4 teams were not at it, so the door opened. You've still got to walk through it, haven't you? You've still got to take your chance. And I think that's what happened for us. Wrexham, we got a bit lucky. Some of those teams didn't quite get their act together. And I'm looking at you, Bolton and Huddersfield, really, because they're big clubs, aren't they? They should have been fighting at the top for that second spot. And they didn't. And obviously they had some change during the season. But our consistency and our culture, probably at the heart of it, allowed us to step through the door. Now the step up next time, I think personally is massive. And I don't share the optimism that loads of fans have already, saying, "Oh, we're going to do 4 in a row." I just think that I don't think you understand this league and respect the teams if you think that is just going to happen. And I don't mean that in a rude way at all. Just, we've all watched a lot of football, probably, I know Liam has. So if you look at that league and you understand what Leeds' wage bill is, for instance,
yeah.
just as an example, I can give you the numbers. Wrexham's wage bill for 250 people in the last year was 11 million quid. Leeds' first team wage bill this year was nearly 80 million just for the first team. I'm talking about everybody in Wrexham at the club. So it's light years. It feels light years away to me. I'm sure Liam will definitely agree with that one, given the head nodding.
Yeah, again, can't say anything different. It is. I don't think a lot of fans realise the jump from League One to the Championship, especially for a club that's not been there in ages. Maybe some clubs that come down from League One. I mean, I'm thinking from the Championship this season. I'm thinking Cardiff, their wage bill will be comparable and things like that. But for teams that, like us, have come through the divisions, we're going to be nowhere near your likes of your Leicester and your Southampton and your Coventry and all that. And it excites me because we get to go toe to toe with all of these giants, if you like, but it also terrifies me because they're spending quadruple, quintuple our entire wage bill. 3 players probably earn more than our entire squad in some of those relegated Premier League sides. So it's exciting, but also very nerve-wracking.
Just to Liam, touch on the point that Matt made before about maybe you're a bit lucky going into League One that a few teams were on it, but you also could have been unlucky, I suppose, with Birmingham coming down really as well. And now you're talking about clubs that are going to be in the Championship that have higher wage bills and more money. Birmingham had obviously had a reset when they get relegated, didn't they? Now they're going to be in the Championship, but they're not going to want that to happen again. So they're also going to be probably better than they were 2 years ago, aren't they?
Yeah, Birmingham, I think a lot of fans share the opinion that at the start of this season, or season just gone, Birmingham were already champions as far as a lot of people were concerned. You sort of just expected them to win the league at a canter, and I'm not going to say it was close, but we weren't a million miles away as a lot of people thought coming into it. But Birmingham are of the level I think we should be aiming to reach next season if we do want to stay up in the division. I'm not going to pretend we're going to be going back to back or even getting in the top half. I'd be very happy consolidating in the Championship, which is something Rob McElhenney doesn't want to seem to do, given what he's put on social media. But I think he is getting a little bit ahead of himself, but I can't blame him. And yeah, we just have to, I mean, I'm sure we'll get onto this. We have to recruit well. We have to not be as emotional as maybe we have been in the past with letting players go and sort of building this squad up again now, which seems weird to say considering we've just been promoted, but we've done it so quickly. The squad needs another overhaul again to compete in the championship. Well, not even compete in the championship, to stay in the championship, which is very weird to say.
Yeah,
Could
back to you.
I just follow that up with
Yeah.
something? Sorry to interrupt. Humphrey Carr had given an interview recently, and I think the club know that, because Humphrey had said they think just to sort of be middling in the championship, we're going to have to increase our wage bill. So that reflects in the quality of the player you're bringing in, doesn't it? Yeah. So they thought they would have to, just to be middle for diddle, probably sort of magnify our wage bill by 4 times. And then they said if you want to be promoted, you're probably 10 times that. And that was, there's a lot of opportunity to be promoted, but 10 times your wage bill. So, I think they are aware, they do know, there's experienced people in and around, and they know what the challenges are going to be. Sorry about to interrupt.
No, it's all good. I was basically going to just go on to that and say, how many changes do you think need to be made this summer, and how many players do you think that are in the squad right now will be able to adapt into this division?
Oh, how long's a piece of string? That's a tough one, isn't it?
Could probably count them on 2 hands.
I
think.
Oh.
I don't.
What, the ones that you think can adapt, or
yeah,
what?
the ones I think can adapt.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Liam, do you want to give us some?
Well, off the top of my head, I speak in general terms. We said it before. We've come up so quickly. There is, in my opinion, anyway, definitely players in that squad that are of a League 2 level, bottom end League 1 level, and as much as we appreciate everything they've done, and they will be legends for Wrexham for what they've done for the back-to-back-to-back, that'll never be forgotten. We have to be heartless, which is painful. Rob keeps he likes to make that point of it's very different to American football, where players stay basically for their entire career, and he's not used to the fact you have to let players go to progress, and that is going to be a big challenge for both the club and the fans, because the fans have become emotionally attached to these players. I mean, Anthony Ford is a great example. He left us this season, and he was maybe not a big part on the pitch, but he was certainly a big part of it. He had a great story in the documentary, if you've seen that, and the fans sort of really warmed to him after that, and to see him go was a bit heartbreaking. But unfortunately, football's a business at the end of the day, and he maybe wasn't up to the quality we wanted in the squad, and I think that's going to happen again in the championship, which is a shame to say, because I love a lot of these players and have great admiration for them.
Can I follow that up? Just on Fordy.
Yeah.
So, for instance, Fordy ended up going to Burton Albion and was released yesterday.
Yeah.
So this just goes to show, I think this is the interesting dynamic that Wrexham fans might have, that maybe some other fans might not have, is that the documentary might add an emotional attachment to people that you perhaps don't normally get, especially around a Premier League club, because the Premier League clubs basically do everything to keep you at arm's length, don't they, from getting anywhere near a player. Whereas at Wrexham, you can watch them in the documentary, perhaps see a story about them or a family member which you resonate with. You can then go to the ground and pretty easily meet them on a match day or a training day, for instance. So this is going to create an interesting dynamic that, as I said, maybe not a lot of other teams will have to come across. But I think the challenge to your original question is, you're facing that really difficult situation is, so in an ideal world, you'd just go out and probably get 22 championship players, wouldn't you? Right? That's what you do, because that then probably guarantees you that you're staying in the league. But at the same time, perhaps common sense and experience will tell Phil Parkinson, I can't do that because it's too many changes. Everybody's new again.
Yeah.
You're talking about having 6 or 7 months of misery while I get them playing well. But at the same time, you're playing such high standard players. You're getting thumped 3 or 4-0 every week. It's not going to work. So that's why he will probably build around the likes of Arthur Okonkwo, Max Cleworth, Lewis Brunt, Sam Smith will definitely be. I don't think you spend 2 million on him last year and then ditch him. So Sam Smith, and then there'll be a couple of other players like that he probably thinks can make the step up. Whether they're starters or not will be different. So Dobson, Owen O'Connell, Rathbone can probably. So you probably can. You could probably make 11, 12, 13, but you the more you add after that, then the better you'll be. But again, you've got challenges, haven't you? I'm sure there's players he'd love, but how do you get him? He chased Thilo Agard, who went to Luton, really hard. If you really want him, how do you get him out of Luton now? Granted, they've come down, but he's just moved. He'd be on a decent wage. So there's challenges from every direction, aren't there? And that's what makes it. I think it's fascinating to see what is going to happen this season. What's our level? Because like I did a list of players for the podcast and for the Patreon I've got, of how I can raise our floor pretty easily. I think you can raise the base really easily. But what I don't know, because I'm not in the rooms with the agents and the calls, what's our level? So what level of player just laughs at you and goes, for whatever reason that is, like, I don't want to move to the Northwest. Your training facilities aren't good enough. Your salary isn't good enough. And this is what I'm intrigued this off-season, is to see what's our level, which is why that rumour today has sort of piqued my interest, because that'll be a first key, that's a key point. That's a player probably slightly above Jay Rodriguez's level that we've been linked with, that will tell us something. Whether it comes off or not is a different thing. But so I'm sorry, that's a long-winded way of answering your question.
No, it's perfect, because you mentioned it at the start. Basically, you said that Wrexham have kind of been known for signing players from higher divisions. Do you think they'll be looking at that with maybe not necessarily players that are in the Premier League right now, but when you look at Leicester, Ipswich, or Southampton, there might be a couple there that could be of interest to Wrexham? Do you think Wrexham will be looking at those players, or do you might think that that's maybe just a step too far right now? And is that basically what you're saying? Is that those relegated players, is that the level that they don't want to go down to Wrexham just now?
Yeah, I'd love to be a fly on the wall and see what are the names. First of all, what are the names on the list? Which agents have sort of gone, this player wants to come, this player wants to come. And maybe I doubt the documentary will reveal such sensitive information, but we're not. To me, it's very unlikely that we're going to be able to sign a 25-year-old Premier League footballer, right? That strikes to me as that is going to be unattainable. But perhaps a frustrated youngster or a frustrated elder statesman, I don't know what's the word, experienced player, right? They may be interested. So that's probably what we're realistically looking at from Premier League. And then within the Championship, the teams that are falling out of the league that are Premier League last year, you've probably got the same level, haven't you? You're not going to get their peak players. But the other teams probably in the middle to bottom half of the Championship, I think Wrexham might be attractive, and the teams that have fallen out. So that, but again, geography plays a massive part in recruitment. People don't talk about it enough. Some players don't want to leave London, and what have you. So I just think it's going to be really interesting to see the names. I take Jamie Vardy out of it. There's some names that get thrown about, don't they?
Yeah,
it's very obvious clickbait. But like this link today with Tom Kearney, I think is fascinating, and I am just going to be intrigued to see what we can get. But we must be sustainable and not throw the kitchen sink at this, and risk our future with players that we're giving 4 or 5 year 30 grand a week deals to, because we've all seen what can happen to a club in that situation, haven't we?
Do you think it'll be important for the club to maybe settle as a middling Championship club? If you're talking maybe this season is just about surviving relegation, and then you can be that middle club in the Championship, and then that's when you can maybe sell a project to a player. Because if you're coming up from now 3 back-to-backs in a row, and you're looking at not a Jamie Vardy, but say if Leeds or Burnley or whoever between Sheffield United and Sunderland now in the playoff final, they'll have to make changes as well to make that step up to the Premier League.
Yeah.
But they might not be looking at Wrexham because they don't know where you're going to be in 2 years' time.
Yeah.
I think we are in a unique position though, compared to a lot of Championship clubs, that we have that worldwide notability through the documentary and the takeover, and a lot of players who have joined the club have sort of gone, oh well, I followed Wrexham in the news after I heard about the takeover and sort of seen their journey, and now I want to be a part of it. And that's been quite a common theme with all of the signings, well, not all of them, but the majority of the signings. Jay Rodriguez said that when he joined. Even if we go back to the National League, Andy Cannon said it when he joined, that he was excited because of what he'd seen in the news and online. Whether that'll work as well for the caliber of player that we'll want to attract in the Championship, I'm not too sure. I'm not sure a former Premier League star is going to go to Wrexham because of the documentary. There's definitely going to be other aspects to it, but it's something in our favour that, say, us and, say, Swansea are competing for a player. You know, we're both in Wales. One's in the north, one's in the south. We're not too... if that's the level we want to reach this season, we've got that little leg up that says, look, we're near Liverpool, we're near Manchester, these big cities. You don't necessarily have to live in Wrexham to play for us. Ollie Palmer's been doing it for God knows how long. And then we've got these links to big clubs near us. If you play well enough, who knows, maybe there's a move on the cards there to the likes of an Everton or something like that. But you know, it's about what we can attract, and we can only focus on what we can offer. And I think we do have a little bit of an advantage with where we are and our prowess internationally and in the UK now as well.
I think, just before you move on, I think that's a really interesting point. If I was an experienced Premier League Championship player, you look for evidence that that you're going to have, you know, sustained probably income at that level, aren't you? You don't really want to rush to a team that is potentially going to fall out. So, whilst I, as an experienced football fan, say, I think this year we should be aiming for just stay in the league and have no drama. Because off the field as well, behind the scenes, academy and all that type of stuff, we need to catch up.
Yeah.
You know, we're trying to implement things that we've not had because we didn't have the money to have it. So, and there's obviously groundwork to do, i.e. the COP is obviously being really rebuilt, and then they've said they're going to renovate other stands, so that'll bring challenges. So I think I would have absolutely be delighted if we just stay in that league and have a second year of that same revenue and that. But we don't know what the owners really think, do we? That is the challenge. That it's all right saying 4 in a row, but the reality is it's very different. So I think your point is correct. What you should do is look to basically build a message that says we are a stable Championship club. We are going nowhere. And then once people see that, they buy into that more.
It becomes more attractive then, doesn't it?
Yeah, because listen, footballers are like you and I, right? You don't rush to work for a business where you're not going to get paid and your owner's an idiot, do you? So this is why, on a fundamental level, footballers are doing a job. They want to get. Remember, not everybody gets paid on time. Not everybody gets all their. And we know this, Liam, from years ago. Not everybody gets paid on time. They don't always get their full wage. And some people have crazy owners that do wild things, i.e., pick the team or whatever. Pick other examples from the weekend. So I think the footballers sometimes look at things a bit simpler than what we think they do. And I think some players are just, and they'll look at the training facilities and go, I'm coming from training at, pick a club, Bournemouth, who've just got a £40 million training centre. And now you want me to come and play for you in the Championship. All right, I can handle the step down, but then you're training at a facility that is, it's got a couple of pitches and you borrow it from the Welsh FA, basically. It's like, and you can't always use it when you want to use it. So there'll be challenges Wrexham are going to face this year that you wouldn't have faced down the league, because everybody's training on a school field in National League, aren't they? You know what I mean? Whereas now we're fighting with big boys. God knows what, Southampton and Leicester, they'll have fantastic facilities, I'm sure. So it's going to be really tough.
How important do you think that is then for fans to maybe remain realistic? Because I with speaking with Liam as often as I do, I understand that Wrexham fans can be quite pessimistic at times. But do you think, with obviously the 3 back-to-backs, and then there's this glorious, we're so close to the Premier League, we're in the Championship, this is amazing. But when that haze eventually maybe wears away, and then you realise that the Championship is so much different to League One, League Two, and the National League, and then the Premier League is a completely different universe to the Championship.
Yeah.
How important do you think that is for fans to maybe put that aside? Because do you think if you were to say go 4 back-to-back, make the Premier League this year, and then how badly do you think you could actually struggle in the Premier League next year if you look at some of the likes of maybe Ipswich and Luton?
Yeah, but don't even talk about Premier League. Forget it, right? Forget
That's
it.
Derby's points record beaten.
Forget that. Don't even think about that for now, right? I think it's better for your health, especially your mental health, if you accept that Wrexham this year might be of the in and around where the Oxfords and Portsmouths are. Yeah, where are they? Sort of middle-ish?
Yeah, 17th, 18th.
Middle-ish, yeah. If that's our mindset, anything above that is a bonus. Now, I'm caveating this because you're asking us to make a judgment call when we don't know what the product on the field is, do we? So if Wrexham, this isn't going to happen, right? But if Wrexham go out and sign Mo Salah, pick somebody else, sign 6 Premier League players and did something crazy, then your estimation of where they would change, wouldn't it? But what we're assuming is that they'll sign the kind of players that will improve us, but not to take us to the Premier League. So it's a really tough question. But I think if that's your mindset from the start, then when the times are tough, you as a fan base, we won't have the meltdowns that go on because everybody's expectations are so high. The Premier League clubs that are not successful anymore, and you see it online, don't you? You see the absolute meltdowns when they lose to Brentford or somebody. Pick a club. There's a couple of them, isn't there, that are perhaps not doing what they. I'm trying not to mention any names, not to annoy anybody, but you know who I mean, yeah.
Arsenal.
Well, I wasn't. There's worse teams than that. I was thinking about, Liam. I was thinking, there might be a Manchester club that are not great.
But even like a club like West Ham, actually, on that point, because at the start of the season, a lot of our fans were talking about Europe, and now they were also in close to relegation as well. Yeah.
So it's dream big, but we need. This is going to be the league that everybody always says, they'll get found out this year, they'll get found out this year, they'll get found out this year. That's what kept happening, and it's happening now. Ironically, I see it on social media. It's happening now. I believe this will be the year where we'll level off, and that's fine. But if your expectations are that it's going to level off, then you won't be in the doldrums when you lose 3 in a row or 4 in a row, whatever it is. Because listen, there are some ginormous teams in this league who've been around for a lot longer than we have, a lot smarter than we have, got more money than we have. So you have to respect those teams. Otherwise, they punch you in the face. That's how I look at it. You get a bloody nose, don't you? I'm happy for you to say otherwise. And Liam, you might disagree, but I think if you understand football and watch a lot of football, you'll understand the challenge that we're going to have this year.
It's just about tempering expectations, I think now. A lot of us are of the thought that realistically, lower end of the Championship, where we're not in trouble of going down on the final day, that will happily do me. And I said that last season as well. I said I would take 12th in League One. That's good by me. And then for some reason we went and got promoted. But that definitely won't happen this season. It just can't. It doesn't make any sense in my head that Wrexham will get any higher than say 14th, 15th. It's like Matt said, this is the big step up now. This is the level where you go, oh my God, we've got Southampton away, we've got Leicester away, even clubs that have been in mid-table Championship for so long now, they're still massive clubs compared to us. And I do think a lot of Wrexham fans are of the realistic opinion that we won't do as well as we have done the last 3 seasons. But for the ones that are sort of thinking of back to back to back to back, they need to temper their expectations slightly.
Going back to the manager, we talked about him at the start. We talked about the players as well, making that jump up as well. How well do you think Parkinson can make that jump up to the Championship? Because obviously he's been there with you through all of this. Like you said, he was managing in the lower league. So this will be as big of a jump for him, really, won't it?
Can I take that one, Liam? Just because I've been thinking about this. I think everybody has preconceived ideas about people. So we've all had preconceived ideas about Phil Parkinson, right? Certainly Wrexham fans have. Maybe from the outside you've not been so bothered. But again, we have that. You constantly have that sort of conversation with people who say this is his level, this is his level, this is his level. The caveat to that is that what we've never seen about we've never seen a Phil Parkinson basically with probably as much money as he's going to have and all the tools that we've got. And by that, I mean, I'll give you a couple of examples. Like, we're lucky enough that we can fly to away games if they're down south, for instance. Yeah, so that gives you physical benefits. You've got Rob and Ryan who can potentially phone a player up who's thinking about coming. So we don't really know what Parky's ceiling is. We've seen it with other clubs because they've got their natural ceilings. So I think it's going to be fascinating. I thought he would have I thought he might have struggled last year a bit more because that was the talk. Everybody outside batters you with this, don't they? That he's going to struggle, and yet they've breezed through it. I say breezed through it. That with greatest respect to everybody, I thought that we would finish mid-table, so relatively breezy through it. So I think it's going to be a challenge for him because he's going to come up against some young, hungry, clever people who will try and outsmart him in ways that he's not come across before, with players that he perhaps doesn't necessarily know so much about. But we have to, at some point you've got to doff your cap to the gent, haven't you? And just say, what he's great at is making a team that's bigger than the sum of its parts. He's going to do that again. He's not going to be looking for a £10 million player. He's going to be looking for, well, how can I get £3 million players and make us better? That's just in his nature. That's how he is. So yes, there'll be times where we lose, and he'll be stood on the sideline scratching his head, going, "I've not seen that before." But remember, this fella's seen 1,000 matches, so there isn't, there's not an awful lot that he hasn't seen before. And he'll surround himself with players like he has this year with McLean, Fletcher. At the end, Rodriguez's experience. He'll probably try and do the same with people of the level and above, so that they can add into the voice as well. In the group, can't they? You've got those experienced players at tough times. So that's how I look at it with Parky.
I just can't wait for the Parky out shouts after the first game of the season. It happened this season. Yeah, it did happen this season, so it doesn't surprise me. But like you said, just stick by him because he's earned a bit of leeway. I think is the good way of putting it. And we see teams. Sorry to latch on. We've seen teams come up from the Championship. Oxford with a big one last season who sacked the manager, and fair play, it worked out for them. But you can't be as hasty, I don't think, with Parkinson given what he's done, and we don't really know how he's going to do with, like Matt said, with a bigger budget than he's ever had, with a bigger profile than he's ever had, with probably better players than he's had overall. We don't know how he's going to do, so you just got to give him a bit of time and get used to it.
Can I give you another example? Sorry to extend that, but I watched from afar and saw how close Portsmouth perhaps came to going down. I'm going to call it this season because I don't think this season isn't finished yet for me because of the playoff. So this season, but they stuck with Mousinho, didn't they? And then pulled away.
It worked, didn't it? Yeah.
Relatively safely. I'm sure they've got some more grey hairs or lost some hair, but relatively, they stuck with him. I think from the outside, the noises would have been, they're probably going to pull the trigger, aren't they? So you've got a couple of examples there. In your example with Oxford and perhaps that Portsmouth one, there's two ways you can go about ending up in the same place. The question is how much belief have you got in that man in the first place? And I think Wrexham have absolute belief in Phil Parkinson. So I think they would get. My gut feeling says, and obviously I hope this doesn't happen, I think that they would keep him even if he got relegated. I think they would still back him. I don't think that they would panic and pull the trigger. Although I could be totally wrong. We could lose the first three and he could be out the door. But my gut feeling is how highly they talk of him and how respectful they are of him. I think they will stick through him thick and thin. But that's just my personal opinion on what they would do.
I mean, the other part of that could probably be as well with the players. You know, you spoke about it before that you can't just go and change 25 players, out 25 and then bring 25 in. There'll be a lot of players that will have respect for him as well, won't there?
Yeah. This is a Parky squad, isn't it? It is a Parky team. And if you were to get rid of the main cog in that, which is Phil Parkinson, maybe some players wouldn't be as effective as they are right now.
Yeah, I agree. I think I don't think there's Max Cleworth technically was at the club before Phil, but obviously he was an academy player basically that came through at the right time. So you've got that connection. The flip side is that under every manager in every club there are players that fall out of favour, even if they were once in favour, and would like either a fresh start, either with us or with another manager. But you get that at all clubs, don't you? Because no player very few of them ever think that will admit their faults, probably. So it's, that's an easy way to get back in the team, isn't it? So there'll be challenges there as well with players that Phil doesn't think are probably good enough for the Championship, and get pushed down the list, if you like. And I think that's going to be interesting to see how that is handled as well, because it's easy buying players, isn't it? It's difficult compared to North American sport, where the club has the power to easily move players on. It's not we don't have that luxury in football. You can argue whether that's right or wrong, but I think that's going to be that's another fascinating story to the off season, is how do you handle that transition for some of those players.
So I mean, you mentioned it before, but what do you actually think will be? What do you think will happen next year? Do you think you'll stay in the Championship? Obviously, I'm asking you this question in the middle of May before you've made a single signing.
Yeah. The best time to do
it. yeah, obviously. Well, this is the best. Yeah.
Obviously. But do you think it is possible that you'll stay in? Do you trust the club to bring in the right players? What's your feelings right now, essentially?
Well, Liam, you can have this one first.
Ever the pessimist, as Darren well knows. I do think with the right additions and letting the right players go, and sort of building that squad up to be at a decent level, we can stay in the Championship. I'm not predicting any higher than 15th. I think that's way too above our level yet. I think we'll get a few scrapes against the bigger teams. We might sneak a win against one of the playoff hopefuls here and there, but over the course of the season, I think I'm not comfortably staying, but we'll like the Portsmouth and the Oxfords, who sort of etched away at the back end of the season. I think we'll just be around there.
Yeah, I think Wrexham will stay in this league. I'm confident that they'll be able to improve the squad. As I said, at the moment it's hard to pin down a position because we don't know the level of player that we can recruit, so it's really tough. We know, as I kind of explained, it's easy to raise our floor, but what's our ceiling? I think that is the fascinating thing, because I don't believe that we can because there's fans that just think we can sign anybody. I'm not lying there, Liam, am I? There are people that just think that if we snap our fingers, these players will just come.
We'll get Van Dijk for Liverpool. It's fine.
It's just there's a reality element to it. So I think, and I would be delighted if we finished mid-table. Anything above mid-table is absolutely sensational for me personally, because, and I'll tell you for why. I don't think, whilst we will spend more money than we've ever spent in our history, probably, we won't be spending the money that relative to what Birmingham spent last year in our league. So we won't be going to spend 50-60 million in this league, relatively. We will spend a modest amount, and Phil will, I'm sure, will get the most out of them.
Just lastly, then, I suppose maybe the most obvious question I'm going to ask this entire podcast, but how exciting is it to be a Wrexham fan during this time?
It's all right. Not bad.
Yeah, it's, to be honest, it's boring because nobody talks about us enough.
No, we never
go
get
under
any
the radar.
mentions anywhere.
We never make headlines. But I think the thing is that all the headlines. So it's exciting. It's exciting. But it's all there's trepidation as well, because there is always that the rug is going to come out from underneath us at some point, or as other fans call it, you're going to get humbled.
Can't wait to inevitably next season. Yeah,
inevitably that is going to happen. Yeah, let's not be stupid here. We are going to level off, right? And I think it's easier to handle that if you're prepared for it. But we're a club that, years ago nearly went out of existence. In COVID, got close again, so we're told. I've been on this amazing journey, and it's just going to be another chapter, isn't it? That might be chapter 1 and 2 done. Maybe we're in chapter 3 and 4 now. So I think it's fascinating from that point of view. But as rival fans and opposition fans might not agree, because obviously everyone tells us they're fed up of listening to Wrexham and hearing about it, don't they?
It's just they should make a documentary about it. That's how fun it's been. But in all seriousness, it's obviously I've been around enough to know all of the history and stuff, and to see us, well, from like when I really started going, we were at our lowest. We got relegated, and then that's sort of when my interest peaked for some reason. When we were in the doldrums of the National League, we were there for so long, and that's sort of all I ever really knew was going to Dover away and Eastleigh away and things like that, and you sort of just get used to it after a while. So Matt said it at the beginning of this podcast, it's not set in yet that we will be playing Championship football next season. It still doesn't seem real. I said it at the Charlton game, and it still doesn't feel real now. And the ride has just been incredible. And if you can't enjoy this, then what's the point in enjoying anything? You know what I mean? It's brought the town of Wrexham together, which has been really good to see off the pitch as well. Obviously on the pitch it's been brilliant, but seeing the racecourse full every week, rival fans will mock us for that, saying it's because of the Hollywood money and all that, but any community would love that, and that's been the best part about it for me, is seeing the racecourse full again, seeing the fans proud to support Wrexham. You see Wrexham shirts in the street everywhere instead of your Liverpool and your Manchester United tops, which is brilliant to see. So yeah, it's been fun, and long may it continue.
Seems like a great place to end, guys. Thank you for joining us today, Matt. If anyone wants to listen to your podcast, where could they find you?
If you Google search Racecourse Ramble, you'll find us on all good social media platforms, and the ones that you don't like, not mentioning any names. And yeah, put that into podcast players and YouTube and everything like that.
If you made it to the end, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video and maybe want to see other videos like this, then please let us know. If you've been watching on YouTube, then please like, subscribe, and even comment if you wish. But for now, thank you very much. Check out our other videos here, and we'll see you soon.